First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, and also it gives me great pleasure to be here. Just networking in the morning or just meeting people in the morning alone, I've realized that we have just amazing quality of people here. Just amazingly accomplished people. It's great to be included as part of this group. I feel very humbled and in awe. I offer basically a little bit of my knowledge. I feel like Steve brought me here to lend a different perspective. Everybody here, I feel like, has had amazing success in consumer mobile apps. I primarily have what I call a small business, and I focus on enterprise clients. It's mostly services, but I'll teach you what little I know about what I've learned throughout the years. So my name is Pek Pongpaet. The E is silent. It's a Thai name. And as far as Thai names go, this is pretty short, if you know Thai people.
First or last?
Both. So there used to be a law where if your name couldn't be longer than 6 syllables, because that was reserved for royalty. So people would try to make it 5 syllables or as close as possible. If you already know this, don't say anything. Do you recognize this guy? Raiden. So, a little bit of background story about me. I used to be this guy. What does that even mean? For 10 years, I did motion capture for Midway Games. I was a semi-pro Chinese martial artist. I competed in China back in 2012. I got silver and bronze. I lost to Russia, which I wasn't too kind of hurt by. In fact, if anything, I was very amazed that I could even get to that level, because Russian athletes, that's all they do. They don't go to school properly. They get selected at a very young age, and then that's all they do. They train whatever the communist regime has picked them out to do. So losing to them is just like, okay, that's great, that's fine. So the end result is I ended up somewhere along the lines, I auditioned for the Mortal Kombat video games back in 2001. That was my first game, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. I did a demonstration for Ed Boon, the creator of Mortal Kombat. He liked what I did. So after that, they just kept calling me, and every time they were working on a new game, and I would work on, they'd suit me up. They'd have a long list of moves that I'd have to go through, and I did those moves over the course of a couple days. Every time there was a new game, we worked on a new cinematic trailer. So there was like a choreographed fight scene where I would help choreograph and come up with, they had a question?
Did you do Raiden specifically? Or
Oh, no. So when I first did it, so the first game, there were three guys who did the motion capture. So I did roughly about a third. By the time we ended with the last game, just the Mortal Kombat reboot, the budget had expanded, the game got bigger, the games got bigger. There were probably like 12 people who did motion capture by the end. So we went from 3 people, and for the longest time, it was even the guys did the moves for the women, and I was always saying, you really should get some women to do the moves for the women. So they finally listened to me towards the end. And then at that point, I had been doing it for 10 years. I'm no longer young, no longer spry. I said, you know what? I can keep doing this, but you need to get some young blood. So I introduced some young blood to the team, and they've taken over that. A little bit of background by my professional career, because that was like a side career. I was an engineer, read software, mostly Microsoft tech. I had a realization that I was a mediocre engineer at best, and I didn't enjoy doing it particularly. And I really enjoyed being a designer. I felt like I was much better at it. Turns out I actually was much better at it, and people paid me more money to do design. And then in this latest chapter in my life, I own a small business, which is Impeccable. We're a digital agency, and what we're aspiring to be is a SaaS company where we have a SaaS, software as a service product, enterprise focused. So I'd like to tell you a bit. Everybody here is very successful. They come up and talk about their accomplishment. I wanted to cover a little bit about what I've failed doing. Did we lose the screen? We lost the screen. Let's see, back in 2008, I created a slideshow widget. It got some press. It got covered by Mashable, ReadWrite, kind of like SlideShare or kind of those MySpace slideshow tools. Got some usage, and got good usage, and then Glam Media even partnered with us and used some of our slideshow galleries. Never made any money off of it, so I would consider that a nice little project that got some coverage. You'll see a pattern here, let me tell you. When Twitter's API was released, I had this idea to make Hot or Not for Twitter. So instead of being judged on your tweets, you didn't even see people's tweets or their profile names. You just saw their faces, and you just said hot, not, and then you see a new batch. Got a lot of usage, and then it got overrun by porn stars because, well, guess what? Men vote for scantily clad women, which were mostly porn star profile pictures. And then it just started to get a very nasty vibe, so I shut that down. At one point, it was sponsored by Axe, so it was completely branded Axe, and Axe men paid me some money to kind of sponsor that. But this is a testimonial from an actual user from a site. I was really happy to get this email because it showed value to a user. And that was when I started to realize, you know what, I'm pretty good at product. I'm not bad at this thing, coming up with these silly ideas. I parlayed that into a social media monitoring tool called Tweetlytics. This was very bootstrapped, very self-funded, and I was going up against companies like Sysomos, Radian6, and stuff like that. They were very heavily VC-funded companies. I had a client, I showed this to a client, Sears in Chicago, and at the time, they even told me, wow, your product is easier to use, it's better, it's more intuitive, it's nicer looking. I said, so how come you won't buy? And they just won't buy. They're all using all these big companies. And then somebody finally told me, well, their account manager took me and my kids to Disneyland. What are you going to do for me? And I said, you know what? I brought a knife to a gunfight here. I was totally not prepared. I said, sorry, I can't do anything. So that's when I realized, this is having a good product was just not good enough. You have to fight a little unfair. When the iPad came up, I love quotes. I love business. So I had this kind of need to kind of build a quotes app for whatever reason. So I built this at a hackathon. I designed this, and then my friend, he coded it up. We ended up winning the iPad hackathon in Chicago. Put it out. Didn't really make any money. Years later, it's like a headliner article from, it was like the Apple blog, the unofficial Apple blog, on an article about skeuomorphism and how it's dying, and then flat design was in. And this was like the image they used. At another hackathon, I built this. This was when Google Instant came out. Some of you may not remember, but there was a time when you actually had to type in the whole search and then hit enter before you get the search results. Nowadays, as soon as you start typing, everything has autocomplete, auto-suggest. But back in the day, that was pretty new, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And at the time, I was a huge book reader, and I was like, why don't we have this for books on Amazon? So I built an autocomplete, auto-suggest for Amazon, launched it, turned it into essentially like your book collection. And actually, we got some angel money offer from SV Angel, which I turned down. Biggest mistake in my life. But I moved out to the Bay Area, and I had this idea. Okay, I wanted to partner up with someone. I actually moved out to the Bay Area and partnered up with a developer friend. And one of our first ideas we had together was, as we were trying to find food places on our mobile phone, and nothing was mobile friendly, that we should build mobile friendly websites for small business. So the idea here is you enter in your small business, and it'll try to autocomplete and auto search, hey, is this your business? And then we'd suck up, try to find all their social profiles, and then auto-generate a mobile website for them. And then they could even text that mobile website to themselves, so they'd check it out. And if they liked it, they could keep it. If they don't, it would kind of go away. Then I learned that selling to small business is really hard. They don't have any money. They're always going out of business. They're very price sensitive. They're not very tech savvy. It was just a hard uphill battle. So we gave up on that. At some point, this was during my frustrations with ideas, coming up with ideas and trying to do like a VC-backed company. At the time, Instagram and Pinterest were like super popular and at the peak of their kind of VC fame. So this sucks, and going to VC pitches and having them poo-poo the idea or say passing on our idea. I said, you know what, this sucks. Well, Pinterest is big and Instagram is big. If we just combine the two, it should be bigger. So as a joke, we coded this up in 2 days, Pinstagram. And of course, before you know it, it was like on the cover of Time magazine, like Time on the web, and got covered a lot by like all these online articles, including VentureBeat, I think. Again, lots of success in terms of marketing and social. Didn't really turn into any money. So I would consider that a business failure as well. And then last but not least, I had this idea for a movies app. We built this, and I personally designed this, not just my team. And then we built this great movie app because I hated using all the movie apps out there. Shortly after it came out, it was featured on Time Online again. Very sucky usage, not very much traction, but it's great for other things, which we'll get back to. So none of this had any financial traction. They may had users, they may had some press coverage, but none of this translated into any real monetary value. So, well, what finally worked? What finally was the thing that everybody was like, shut up and take my money? Well, throughout this whole time, at some point people realized, Pek can design and build some shit. So people were always like hitting me up, like, Pek, you gotta help me with my product. Pek, you gotta help me build this. And I was always like, no, I really gotta do my own thing. I wanna be, my own startup guy. And I was always turning money down left and right. Finally, after a decade of this, I finally started listening to people, and I said, you know what, maybe I will help you design your product. Maybe I will help you build your product and take some money. And that's where Impeccable started. This was in 2012. I finally kind of started listening to people and kind of gave in and caved in and said, you know what, I'll be a mercenary. I'll be a freelancer and grow this business. So 5 years later, we're now about 40 people. We're now about 40 people. We have in about 6 different countries. We've done around probably over 350 projects now. And we have a pretty good small business, pretty healthy 7-figure business. I'd like to get a show of hands now that we get into the meat of the talk. Who here sells products or services in the 3-digit range? Like worth hundreds of dollars. Okay. What about 2 digits? Okay. 4 digits. Or 5 digits? Yep. 5 digit. 6 digits? Perfect. And 7 digits. You sell anything? Perfect. Awesome. So this is kind of where I live. So this is, advice kind of. So we typically sell apps design or app building services, typically starting at something 5 figures, going up to 6 figures. Some clients have been with us for so long that they end up spending probably 7 figures, but that's probably not on a per project basis. So what do we do today? We build and design great, beautiful apps. So for my talk, if you are looking for downloads, I don't have any, but I do have a particular set of skills which I have acquired over a very long career, which I'm willing to share with you. So here are some of our clients. It's very impressive. I'm still at awe that these companies choose to work with us. We're a very small, dinky little 40-person company, but we've worked with, all of these are billion-dollar plus companies that will choose to work with us. And our growth has been, since 2012, as a service company, slow and steady. As you get, with services, it's really hard to scale, and this is why, we see this as a sort of a means to an end. Now that we have a cash machine that helps generate some revenue, we're looking to grow that into we invest a lot of those resources in building SaaS products, and that's what we're trying to do. We have a pretty good reputation. We're one of the top 10 app development firms in the Bay Area, which is insane. We'll get back to that for a little company. So I'm going to share you my secrets. And they'll all sound really lame. Number one, everything I have is through relationships. I'm not a cold caller by any means. In fact, I'm an introvert. I would classify myself as an introvert. I prefer, after tonight, I'll probably have to be home, go back to the hotel and detox for a while. But everything I've accomplished is through relationships. Our first, our big client HP, we got through, I knew someone there, and we started with a small project, and it went on from there. And most of the clients, if you go back to the charts here, almost always I knew somebody there. So there. Number two skill. So if I would classify I'm kind of loosely ordered this by importance. So most of my success, I think, is through relationships. Being here, through relationships, meeting all of you. I hope to learn a lot from you, again, through relationships, meeting here. Number two skill, I think, is follow-ups. So people may not buy, and you can translate this, whether through Entreprise or through consumer apps, right? It's following up. They may not be ready to buy today, but at some point they'll want to buy. So some of our clients, so like the HP relationship, I originally approached my friend, 6 months before they even decided to engage with us. And I said, hey, let me know if there's anything. And then about 6 months later, but if you don't follow up, people don't, they kind of forget about you. So once you've determined that, this is a right fit, you have something of value to this person, and they need what you have, follow up. Ping them once a month, ping them once a quarter, or ask them, hey, when do you think we should follow up, and ask them. And then the moment they tell me, follow up in May, follow up in June, follow up when my budget frees up, put in the calendar to follow up. Another strategy I use is the strategy called land and expand. So I get a client, say within HP, and that's not the end of it. Right, I work with a group, usually a lot of times I work with a particular person. I have a relationship with a particular person. Once we've established that relationship, I want to expand. There's many departments within HP. There are many subsidiaries. So who else can I be of use to? So I'll ask them, hey, do you know any groups within HP, Aruba, that I can help? And usually they can come up with something like, oh yeah, this guy's working on something. Their app absolutely horrible, you should go talk to them. And I asked for an intro, and then before you know it, 5 years after, at one point we were working on 6 projects, simultaneous projects for a big client. So that's the land and expand. Translating that to consumer, I would imagine, you get a client, you get a customer, right? They download your app and you make money from them. So how do you expand that? How do you increase the lifetime value? It's all about increasing, this is exactly the same thing, right? Like I get one project from a big client, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to expand and increase the lifetime value of this client. Maintaining relationships. This is another huge important deal. So, I have a relationship with people, but it turns out people don't stay at jobs forever, right? They move on. So, like Twilio, Honda, Constant Contact, all of these clients here are examples of me maintaining relationships of people that have worked with me before, and then they go on to those companies. So I've worked with product marketing at HP, and they loved our work. So when the guy went to Twilio, guess he's gonna call? So, and then just maintaining it, making sure that you're there when they move, when things change. Those are the interesting ways to expand your reach. And I would guess, if I had to translate this for consumer apps, my analogy would be, so they're a consumer of one app, and when they make sure that you can get them over in different apps, right? Maintain that relationship over different apps. And another important thing is, I'm limited. I'm a workaholic. I probably already work 14 hours, 16-hour days. Today will probably be pretty long day. After this, we'll probably, all of us are here. We're probably going to check email. We're probably going to do some work. But we're humans. We're limited by our 24 hours. Even if you work at most 24 hours, that's all you can put in. So one of the first things I did was I started teaching my skills to our team. I hired junior designers who have mentored, and they're now senior designers. They can, some of them have graduated to becoming very, very autonomous, and I don't really have to be even involved in the project. So I've kind of built a team around me of 40 designers and mobile engineers, software engineers. We constantly are mentoring them. Our new goal this year is to mentor them in sales, because mostly right now I do all the sales. So rather than paying a really expensive salesperson, I'm trying to see if we can get some of our own people in-house to try to do some of the sales, and actually it's been going pretty well. So basically, I would say teach your team, expand your team, grow your team so that you can multiply your effectiveness, because you can't do it all yourself. Also, we project a lot. If you look at our messaging, you go to our website, you go to our online presence, you see that we work with some amazing companies. That's not to say we don't work with smaller clients. We do, but we're trying to project a certain image about yourselves. Some of the marketing we do, for example, at Twilio, last year's Twilio conference, they asked us to guest speak because, one, we know their product inside and out, and we've done some amazing work with them. So what we did for a talk was to control drones via Twilio chat. So Twilio has a chat SDK. I was into drones, and plus drones are really cool. I bought a drone and I couldn't figure out how to fly it, so I said, well, this is hard. I'm too old for this or whatever. I just want to tell it what to do. Can I just tell it what to do? So I had one of our engineers kind of hook up Twilio's chat SDK to a DJI drone, which had an API. So for the demo on stage, we were able to tell the drone to take off, turn around, move forward, turn around, take a picture, come back, land. Very cool demo. But all of these are essentially also kind of like marketing stunts, but to show that we are very forward-thinking, we're very cutting edge. Actually, we get right after the talk, turns out there was a guy from Philip Morris in the crowd, and he just came up to us and said, you know what, you guys are so cutting edge, you guys are so forward-thinking, you guys, we want to work with you guys. And that's how we got Philip Morris as a client. That's not on there. People have a certain reaction to that company. And then reputation. Reputation in the consumer mobile apps world would be your ratings, right? So managing your user ratings and making sure that you constantly look at that and make sure that you get your customers to rate yourselves, you get your customers to rate yourselves good. Same thing with us. In the agency world, there's this kind of Yelp for agencies called Clutch that reviews our clients and reviews our work. and we're in the top 10. So we're, and if you look at all the other companies up there, a lot of them are huge companies, 600 people or so. We've even had offers for acquisition from some of the companies on the top above us. And so reputation is something we take very seriously. We cultivate our reputation. And that's very important, I think, in the services business, where it's really hard to differentiate. When people, we get certain small clients who are like, well, what makes you different? Why can't I just go to an Indian firm that'll do this for 10% cheap, for 10% of your price? I think really the only argument you have towards that is your reputation, right? For executing, I can say, well, look at all the clients we work with and look at all the stuff we built. That's the, if you're trying to do that and the people you're talking to haven't ever done anything close to that, if price is the only thing you care about, then absolutely go with them. But if it's something that we've done before and that you're trying to do and you want a certain type of quality, that's who you come to. And I wanted to cover some neo-level stuff I consider that I'm working towards, but I haven't even gotten to, because I also have a peer group. Every now and then I get advice from people who've run bigger agencies than me, or agencies in different cities, so they're essentially not competing. And here's some of the stuff that they've shared with me that I look to try to accomplish. So selling into the future, so pre-sales. I had a friend who runs a much bigger agency in Chicago, and one time he told me, I'm already done with my sales for the next 8 months. I've already pre-booked my clients. My whole team is booked. If I have more business, I basically have to grow the team. And he has like a 60-person team. Oh no, more than that by now. And that's great. I'm not there yet. I don't book that far in advance. But the idea of pre-selling something and getting business so much far in advance that you feel secure, right? Like if you're like me, where it's kind of like month to month or quarter to quarter, you're like, oh crap, I gotta keep doing this. I gotta keep doing this to maintain my numbers and to feed my team. Being able to pre-sell so far in advance is a very useful skill. And also having a seat at the table for clients. So one thing you'll learn about enterprise clients is they have budgets, they have their time scale of when they spend things, they have planning meetings. If you're a vendor and you can get invited to these planning meetings or being in the discussion of how they're going to spend their money, that's obviously a much better relationship than the other vendor who's totally excluded. So having a seat, being invited to planning so that you can say, oh, why don't you make sure you carve out $500,000 because you wanted to do this project with us or something. That's a much better, more powerful position than having to beg for it kind of after they've already had their planning meeting. Because a lot of the conversations sometimes we do run into with some of our clients is like, oh, we'd love to do this, but we'd have to do it next budget, the next quarter because our budget is out. And that's where the follow-up is useful, because then it's like, okay, well then I better catch them before they have this, when their budget renews. But by having a seat at the table, you can foresee that and kind of lock yourself in. So to summarize, relationships, it's all about relationships. People want to work with people they know, people want to work with people they trust, and then follow up like crazy, right? Like if people don't respond, it's not personal. They could be very busy. Right now, if I want to talk to Twilio, it's crazy. I can't get a hold of anyone because Twilio's annual conference is coming up. So, you got to follow up. Land and expand. So how do you increase the LTV of your customer, right? Like I don't think of it as transactional. I don't think in fact, I don't even look for customers. Like I'll prioritize if people want to work with us, I look at the potential. Is this a one-time relationship where they just want something and then they just want me to leave? Or is there potential to kind of have a relationship where they come to us back again and again? So increasing the lifetime value of a customer. Maintaining relationships. So people will change, move jobs. go from here to there. Discovery is a great example. We had a client we were working with, and he had a small startup. It failed. It really sucked. Sucked for us because there was nothing more we could do. But at one point, he got a job at Discovery. I said, "Hey, Andy, you're now at Discovery. Do you remember us? We did a good job for you." And sure enough, we got a gig at Discovery. Growing the team, making sure that one thing it helps is it takes the pressure off, right? By me training the team on sales, I worry all the time about the sustainability of the company, right? I have this irrational fear of like what happens if I get hit by a car, right? Like I have 40 people I'm responsible for, and not just them, but their families. So mentoring the team so that there's some redundancy in the team, so that it's not all on you. Projection, so making sure that we project a certain image so that people perceive us a certain way. I had a friend who has their own agency. He focuses on startups, and it's a different perception. He's kind of on the low end, and I've been counseling him on how to go after the bigger market, and that's what we're trying to do. That's what we've been doing. And then managing your reputation. Your reputation is everything. I know agencies who don't care. They do one job. It's very transactional. They get the money and they try to extract as much value as possible and then move on. For me, my reputation is everything. It's everybody knows everybody. People can call up. People can say, hey, how did this guy do? So for me, my word is all I've got, right? If I don't do a good job for you, people talk, and vice versa. If I do a good job, people talk. So maintaining your reputation is very important. And with that, that's all I got, and we'll open up to Q&A.